What's up, nerds, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about The Flash, number 776, where we see that when you just need to tell a weird story, basically you can just copy Grant Morrison. So if you've been keeping up with The Flash, you will know that right now we do have Wally West as The Flash, and there was this whole storyline going on where this spear, or glaive they were calling it, crash landed into Earth, and nobody really knew what it was, but it was causing everybody to act erratically, and then eventually Flash ended up in this whole brief encounter because we come to find out basically the glaive was, I guess, the dark crystal, the thing that Eclipso comes in. So that's who was in the damn thing. And so now Eclipso is out, but right when Flash thought that he was done dealing with the whole scenario, all of a sudden he saw an Ankh appear, so he was like, is that Dr. Fate? And then Dr. Fate's hand just pulled him in. And that's exactly where we're picking up here, where he's pulled him in, he's still holding the damn thing. And he's asking him, what's going on? What is this place? So Dr. Fate is telling him, a two-dimensional causeway. If we act quickly, we might make it to our destination because before Eclipso can make his move. But the journey is dangerous. Even now, I can feel the foul beasts and demonic apparitions that are native to this dimension moving to strike. It's going to be up to you to help us, to guide us through. So he's asking, me, how can I help? And then Dr. Fate cuts him off and is like, no, not you. I'm talking to them. And that's when he actually addresses us, where we can see he's actually reaching out of the panel to say you in a very Uncle Sam type of way. And this is what I was talking about, the whole Grant Morrison thing, where basically the comic book characters are so cosmically aware that they even realize this is a comic book and we, the reader, have more control over their entire plane of existence than they do. So that's where he's saying, our fate lies in your hands, talking to us. And Flash is even asking him, reader, what are you talking about? What reader? So he goes up to him, casts, some sort of, I guess, minor spell on him, so that way he's able to see us. So that's exactly what happens next, where Wally starts freaking out. I was like, whoa, what the hell is that? Who are they? Why are they just, staring at us like that and everything? So he's saying, I don't have time to explain. The demons of this realm have found us. So that's where we see they immediately are, yes, beset upon by hundreds upon hundreds of demons and imps and shit that immediately start to overtake them. So they're trying to come up with a plan, and Flash is saying, can they do something besides just stare at us, referring to the reader? And Dr. Fate says, well, yeah, listen to me, reader. You can make changes to this world, but you must believe. This is what I was talking about. This is more like that Grant Morrison school of thinking, that the reader has a whole lot of control, and that's the whole purpose of the story, is to kind of tell you, you know what? The way that you read this story and the way that you even hold the book, you'll see what I mean. All of that is basically magic to them. So he's saying, I understand to them, this is just a book. You're thinking, how could you possibly affect our outcome? Change what's here on the page, but magic is a strange thing. It takes intention, belief. When we give you a command, you will have to believe it will work for the magic to activate. Do it before the page is turned, and all will be well. Don't, and we will perish. Please put your ego aside. It's up to you. Just tip the book counterclockwise. So he yells out now, and after you do that, after the advertisement, that's when you see this, where because you've tipped the book sideways, now all of a sudden all the demons are falling into a pit, and we see where these two, yes, all of these panels are still correctly oriented, but if you can tell from their speech bubbles, this is the way you're supposed to hold it this entire time, because they're basically climbing through the panels and shit. So the rooms and things you see here don't actually have any substance to them, because they're able to just crawl from panel to panel. They don't actually interact with anything in any of these panels that they actually go through. So Wally is asking him, okay, explain this to me, Doc. There's got to be a better way to get to wherever we're going than through a two-dimensional book gateway thing. So he tells him, if we went by any conventional means, it would take us years to catch up to Eclipso, and by that time I fear it would be too late. This is the best way to try and head off his mad schemes. Reader, please return the book to its correct orientation. So that's when you turn it back this way, and they enter into this hallway that has all of these just random guards kind of standing there. So they walk in, and Wally's even saying great. So they all look, and we see where all of the guards basically do that thing where they all creepily snap to attention and look at them all in unison. So he asks Dr. Fate again, do you have an idea? So this is where Dr. Fate tells the reader to blow on the page to kind of like basically put out all the fires in there. Which, I mean, come on now. There's still a pandemic on. Anyway, so that's where we see like it goes black and everything, and then all the guards basically manage to knock themselves out. So Flash is basically, or yeah, Flash is telling him like, "Is that your hand? Please tell me that's your hand." So he's like, "Ha, dumb killer automaton guards can't even see in the dark. Way to go, Fate." So Fate decides to thank us, the reader. And one thing I have to note about Fate, I love the character of Dr. Fate, but this particular version is not my favorite. Like, the costume design isn't all that great. Him as a character hasn't been all that great. And for one thing, I really have to point out, I am so tired of modern superhero costumes having shoes like this, like Dr. Fate has. Hold on. I think you can kind of see it better, like, in the beginning of the story. Somewhere in here. Like, you're able to actually, yeah, right here. You see his shoes? You see how they have laces and shit? What happened to the old days of superheroes wearing, like, boots? You know what I mean? That actually, like, looked correct. Now all of a sudden everybody has to be wearing like shoes like they're about to go and dunk on a motherfucker. But anyway, so he's running around to this, and that's the other thing, like with the laces all flopping around and shit, can you tuck that shit in? Make it look a little cleaner, but whatever. So they finally get to this other like chasm or whatever, and they have no idea, well, how are we going to get across? Because Wally's powers aren't really working here. So he's like saying, if I had my speed, I could just, speed up and jump us across, but that's not going to work here. So this is where he decides to go ahead and address the reader by saying like, just a little clockwise tilt, cool? So that's what you're supposed to do this way. And they immediately fall through and start plunging towards this like giant lake. I don't really know what you would call this chasm that has water in it. So he's even saying like, flip the book back as they're falling and shit. So that's what you're supposed to do. Flip it back so that way they're back to this. They fall into the water. And then this book that Dr. Fate has been carrying is just continuing to like float above them. So he even asks them like, what is that? And Dr. Fate tells him it's our way out. So he's like saying, Fate, something just touched my legs. They're like, don't worry. I'm sure it's nothing. We just need to get the book. But before he can actually finish that thought, all of a sudden he gets pulled under and Wally's just like, Fate, Fate. So he's saying like, you turn the book, turn it all the way upside down, all the way, which when you do that gives us this, because yes, now all of a sudden all the water would obviously go the other way, and we have this gigantic sea creature that has just been revealed. So he's saying, I'm never going swimming again. And he says, Wally West, Monster Slayer, because he still has the damn glaive or whatever. So he uses that to cut off the tentacles that are holding Dr. Fate, allowing Dr. Fate to fall. And then Dr. Fate tells the reader to turn the pages right side up again. So that's when we get over. It kind of gets annoying, like doing all this shit. Anyway, so we do that, and we see that he's able to grab the book and everything. He starts looking through it. And he comes up with a plan. He says, the book, to activate it and create a doorway, we must know the order of the glyphs. So he's saying, like, what glyphs? So that's when he addresses us and says, you, go back and find the glyphs. So you can see it's a blue triangle, a red circle, and then another yellow triangle. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is even, I remember reading, like, a Grant Morrison comic where he said that, like, comics are basically magic, and they're also time travel, because you can read them all the way one way, you can read them all the way the other direction. Like, he's written stories in that type of way. So that's kind of what they were trying to do here. And if you're wondering, Dylan, where are all the shapes? I didn't see any of them. Yeah, I didn't bother to track them down. The only one I noticed, because I noticed it when I was reading, I was like, why is there a yellow triangle back there below the guards? So that was the only reason why I was like, okay, yeah, I see what y'all were going for. But I didn't go back to actually look for them, because it's even saying, like, when you found them all, come back here, touch the 3 glyphs in the order you've seen them, followed by the center glyph to open the doorway. Remember, intention and belief, go. He tells us to hurry, which, don't rush me, comic book character. So that's when we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to, like, touch the glyphs in order and then touch the center, and that causes this, like, big explosion. So that's where we see, like, the whole point of it was to get them to teleport here to Gem World. So they get there, and Dr. Fate is saying, like, we made it to Gem World. And we see Amethyst. If you don't know Gem World, it's basically, what's sort of sorcery with Princess Amethyst. Which I'm so glad they have her looking like this here. Because I know that in, like, what was it, Teen Titans recently, they had her looking very different. She did not look good. But here she looks a little bit more, normal or whatever. So she's been, well, they've both been transported to Gem World, and she's telling them, like, yeah, you're too late. Eclipso has won. Because basically here, Gem World, the whole sort of sorcery thing is very much magic, very high magic type of thing. So that's what we're getting here, where they've been teleported. We can see Etrigan, Detective Chimp, like I said, Amethyst, Ragman, Constantine, and Zatanna. So we're going to see what ends up happening with that, because obviously Flash is about to have some sort of adventure with the Justice League Dark in Gem World, also trying to help out Amethyst, I guess, in dealing with the whole thing with Eclipso, which I guess makes sense. You know, Gem World, he has the, the Dark Diamond or whatever the hell. So all of it seems to be tying together pretty well, aside from the fact that they definitely, like I said, just kind of copied Grant Morrison and like the way that he approaches like telling comic book stories. Other than that, it was an okay story. I'm not going to sit here and say this is like the best story that I've ever read, and especially not just because they were trying to do the whole thing of like, look, we know that you're reading a comic book, so let's do all these fun things with it. It's like, okay, I'm not a child. I don't need you doing all of these activities. I'm surprised they didn't put some sort of arts and crafts like tutorial in there. You know what I mean? Like, go and draw your favorite character and then cut it out and put them into like, they could have done something really stupid like that. Instead, it was just like this whole thing of like, turn it upside down, turn it clockwise, counterclockwise. Now go back and look for these symbols and then touch them in the right order. It's like, all right. I get what you were going for. You were trying to be much more interactive, but still at the same time, it's just like, okay. You did need to do that for it to be a good story, but well, whatever. Really, part of the only reason why I actually bought this, because I was considering dropping the Flash series, like from the books that I buy, was because I was like, I saw Dr. Fate on it, and like I said, I love Dr. Fate. He's one of my favorite characters. So I was like, all right, fine. You put Dr. Fate in it, I'll see what we got going on with it. So overall, I'm not going to say it was a bad issue, but I'm also not going to say it's all that great of an issue. It's just one of those ones that's like, if you want to read it, I guess it's like an entertaining read for what it is, which, as I've always said, to me, that's like one of the more tangible ways of seeing if a comic book is actually successful as a story. If you can just read it self-contained, you don't necessarily have to know what came before, you don't necessarily have to know what comes after. It's okay on its own. So I mean, I think it does have the legs to stand on its own, and that's fine. I'm not going to be too nitpicky with it, and at the same time, I'm not going to praise it all that highly. It was just somewhat middle of the road, which sometimes is fine, especially nowadays, where they try to put so many different like messages and propaganda into books and everything. I'm like, you know what, if you're just going to tell me a straight up story that was just at least mildly entertaining, all right, fine. I'm not going to complain about that. I'm really not. So I think that's about all that I can really say for this issue of The Flash. I don't know if anybody out there is continuing to keep up with it. If you read this issue, if you have any thoughts on it, please do feel free to share those down with me below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely make sure to like the video. If you didn't like the video, well then, I mean, hey, thanks for at least watching this far to hear me talk about this part. Anyway, make sure you are subscribed, hit the notification bell so that way you know when I'm putting up new reviews. If you would like to share out the video, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. You are helping my channel to grow, so I always appreciate that. But if you're done here, guys, then go and read a book. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.